Welcome, everyone. We'll get started in just a minute. So while we're waiting for people to jump on, let's get started with a quick question. So just drop one word into the chat. Are you, as an organization, having a harder time hiring or retaining employees right now? So just put hire or retain into the chat. And the reason I'm asking this question is because we're seeing some very clear patterns across companies that we work with. And so we're always curious just to see what else is out there and what people are experiencing as well. So hire or retain. And the reason this is kind of important is because that's kind of the topic we're going to talk about today, is the idea of retention in the work environment and why it's so important. So I'll go ahead and jump in and introduce myself. My name is Heather McKay, and I'm the founder and CEO of H&M Pinnacle Consulting. And I'll tell you a little secret. I didn't start this company because I wanted to run an HR organization. I started it because I was tired of watching good companies struggle with people problems that were completely fixable. And I've spent over 20 years in HR and operations, not just behind a desk, but out on the production floors, in fast-paced moving environments, and working with teams across the US and globally. And I've seen what works and what doesn't work. I've seen what absolutely is detrimental to an organization and costing them so much money. And that's why I became passionate about opening HMP, because this is what we get to do every day. We help organizations become stronger from the inside out, right? We're building modern HR infrastructure. We're developing leaders in the places where they're at, in practical ways, right? And helping organizations to create systems that actually support the people instead of slowing them down. Because the truth is, retention isn't magic. And culture is definitely not a pizza party. And leadership isn't just a title, right? Strong companies are built intentionally. And that's what I love to help leaders do. So today we're going to talk about retention and what actually stabilizes your work environment in 2026. And I'm really ready to get started. So I wanted to start by letting you know some of the things that I normally tell leaders when I'm meeting with them. And that is that turnover is rarely a surprise. It's usually the results of leaders not acting on what they already know and fixing it, right? In organizations, you don't lose people overnight. It's slow, and people are becoming frustrated because of inconsistencies, workloads, unclear expectations, right? And leaders who are stretched so thin that they cannot lead, or they don't have the skills to lead. And the truth is that retention isn't about keeping people comfortable or happy. It's about creating an environment where people can succeed. And when people are succeeding, your bottom line is also succeeding. So I'm going to be very clear. Retention is harder in 2026, and it will continue to be harder, right? Retention is hard for real reasons, and leaders need to understand that. And the first is your workforce. They have more options than ever, and they are exercising those options, right? We're seeing a major shift in how people think about work. Right now, 19% of US adults are actively starting or running their own business, almost 20%. And 1 in 10 workers are self-employed nowadays. The surveys are showing about 60% of adults would rather be their own boss than work for someone else. 60%. And why is that happening? It's happening because of poor leadership. It doesn't mean everyone's going to run away overnight and not be there for tomorrow morning when you get into the office. But what it does mean is employees are constantly evaluating now. Is it worth it to me, right? Am I growing? Do I have purpose? Am I respected, right? And culture plays a huge part in that decision. Another reason that retention is going to be harder in 2026 is because mid-level managers are carrying more workload with less support. I did a poll the other day on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if any of you were able to participate in it or not, but the poll said, do you know that employees leave leaders, not companies? And a resounding number of people knew that. But then my mind is blown because those are the same people who aren't making the adjustments to leadership to keep the people in the building, right? And so we underestimate how often leaders need help and support, right? There's the breakdown is right there. So mid-level leaders, managers, whichever title you want, are promoted usually for technical reasons. And then they never receive the leadership training that's necessary for them to do the work that you're asking them to do, right? And then on top of that, you add in that they've got reporting. There's more compliance. There's more administrative work, right? And so all of this is being piled onto them. But then they don't have time to coach. They don't have time to teach or to develop their people, right? Or even clear communications. It's so quick and fast paced that we are getting slow response when it comes to developing really clear communication processes. So we need to be careful because the culture breaks down at the supervisor or the first line level. It just does because they're the ones who are in the day-to-day with your employees. And so that group of people really needs to be bolstered. And the lack of that is part of why retention is so difficult right now. Another reason that you need to really pay attention to your employees this year is because of a rise in technology, automation, and AI. It's changing the work environment. And I want to say it's not necessarily changing or removing jobs, but if you've seen the news lately, you know that's absolutely not the case. I will go on the record saying that I think that will change very shortly because it shouldn't be removing jobs. It should be replacing how work is done. What it is doing is it's increasing the speed of work. It's increasing the expectations, and it's increasing how quickly employees have to learn and adapt. But we aren't giving them the tools to learn and adapt with. I absolutely think that leadership doesn't provide the direction, the priorities, or the structure, and the speed just keeps getting more and more frustrating to employees. And so I want to warn you as a leader, stop. Stop, because that frustration is going to be why people escape. It's why they leave when they get frustrated. So we need to figure out how to use the AI tools that we have in a way that's going to help our employees become more successful, not just speed it up, right? Culture is now a retention factor, and employees are paying attention to that, right? They're paying attention to how leaders are communicating, whether expectations are consistent and people are being treated fairly. Think about it. When was the last time you went into your work environment and noticed that it was being done differently today than yesterday, right? And then how do you decide which way is the right way to do the work? Leaders need to make sure that they're following through on what their expectations are and to keep it consistent. Because culture isn't about being nice. Culture is about how work is actually done, right? Organizations are struggling the most because they don't understand this. They think that bad people are the reason that their culture is failing. And they're wrong, right? The reason their cultures are failing is because of unclear leadership expectations, right? If employees don't know what's expected of them or they have a path forward, how are they going to continue to feel that they are being successful in the work that they're doing? But the great thing is these are all fixable problems. So when leaders ask me, okay, Heather, how do I stabilize my work environment? How do I build a stronger culture? How do I keep good people, right? I always come back to the same three things. I call it DAP, D-A-P, develop, appreciate, and give purpose. You can do all three of these things while you're still holding your people accountable, because whether you realize it or not, employees want to be held accountable. They want to be trusted with the work that they have. They want to be challenged, and they want to show you what they can do. I was doing a training in an engineering organization a few weeks back, and this actually came up, and it was mind-blowing to some of the leaders, right? So I asked the question to the leaders. I said, all the leaders in the room, I said, how many of you struggle to have tough conversations, to hold people accountable for the work that they're doing? All of them raised their hand. All of them. They're like, yes, I cannot figure out how to do that in a comfortable way. And then I said, okay, so now all the employees in the room, how many of you want to be held accountable? How many of you want to be trusted with the work, be challenged, but then be told when it's not being done correctly? Every single employee in that room raised their hand. And I looked at the leaders and I said, look around. People want to be held accountable. They want to know what they're doing well or not. They want those tough conversations, right? That's part of how you engage your employees. And that's important. So, number one, develop, right? So the first part of DAP is to develop, and it starts with your leadership. People stay where they feel like they're going to grow, not where they feel stuck, right? And Gen Z in particular expects development. Surveys are consistently saying about 70% of Gen Z employees say learning and growth opportunities are one of the top reasons they stay in roles. 70%. And development doesn't mean promotions, and it doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of money, right? So development isn't about a paycheck or a promotion, right? It's about progress. It's about teaching people new skills, right? You know what your employees' jobs are. How do you help them increase the skill sets that they have inside of those roles so they can be used for other things? It's about stretching opportunities. Is there an initiative or a project that you might be able to assign an employee or have them participate in that might not have been part of their regular job, right? It's getting more work done out of the organization, which is great, but it's also challenging them to grow and to develop, right? Another one that I love to remind leaders of is coach instead of react. Because when we react as a leader, when something's happening and it's not being done right, we immediately shut that employee down. They no longer understand why what they did was wrong or how to do it right next time. And then they stop trying. So don't react, coach in those moments. Give them the feedback that they need, because feedback is how they're going to continue to grow and to be challenged, right? And then let your employees lead projects. I think it's important that they have an opportunity to do that. Even a small projects, it doesn't have to be big, right? And most importantly, make sure that you are paying attention to how you're leading, because they will follow your leadership style and you want them to develop. It's very important. And the second one is A, which is an appreciate. And I want to be clear, this isn't pizza parties. We're not talking about rah-rah. We're not talking about kumbaya. We're talking about appreciation. Think about it yourself. As a leader, as an employee, as a human being, how do I feel appreciated? They want to be respected. They want to be recognized for what they're contributing. They definitely want to be listened to and having a voice at the table. I know that personally, that's one, even at home. Like, I want to be listened to. I want to know that I have the same voice. It makes employees feel like they're valued, right? As a leader, notice the efforts your employees are putting in, and then give them room to do the jobs that you have put them there for. Do not micromanage them. This is one of those challenges that I've had in organizations. I worked for a company a while back, and we scoured the earth for great leaders and great employees. It was a very unique environment, and there were a lot of technical skills that were required for the roles. And so we would do mass recruiting efforts to find the top candidates. And then we would hire those top candidates in and bring them in. And then as soon as they got there, we stopped allowing them to bring what it was that we wanted them to come for. We started to tell them how to do their jobs. We started to provide them our way of doing work. And what did you do? You ruined everything that we worked so hard to create in those people. We wanted that skill set. We wanted to be that value that they were bringing to the organization. And we were taking it right out of them because we were micromanaging them to do it our way, right? So be careful of that. People don't expect perfection from leaders, but they do expect to be seen and heard and have an opportunity to do the work that they're there to do, right? Set your boundaries. Put boundaries in place around what is acceptable to be done, and then allow employees to move within those boundaries. Some of the most creative ideas, some of the best problem solving comes from allowing your employees to bring their own bent to the work, right? And you can hold them still accountable and appreciate them. They're not opposites, right? In fact, people will feel more respected when expectations are clear and standards are consistent, And then you step out and you let them do the work that they're there for, right? Because we don't want to frustrate employees. And when you frustrate employees, it comes from inconsistency. Like we talked about, it comes from favoritism. It comes from leaders who are avoiding those tough conversations. Hold people accountable, give them the tools, and then allow them to do the job that they're there to do. That right there is how they'll feel appreciated. So the third one is give purpose. This one here is what organizations are struggling with. I personally know that, and I see organizations do it regularly. And I have to remind organizations, right? 75% of Gen Z says that purpose strongly influences whether they'll stay with an employer. That's our newest generation of employees coming into the work environment. So 75% is a pretty large amount. So you have to work on this one as an organization. Employees want to know why their work matters. They want to know what the big picture is and how the work that they do connects to that, right? They want to know that they're contributing to the bottom line of the business. They don't just want a job or a paycheck, right? They really, truly are looking to know that their work matters, gives purpose to the organization, right? And it's not fluff. It has to be meaningful work. Be careful to do that. Be careful that the purpose you're giving them isn't the speeches, the posters, the nice to have sentences. It really truly is direction. It's connection to the outcomes. It's understanding the impact. And this one here, I have to say, I even struggle with. Leaders have to be willing to explain the why. It matters. People want to understand the why. And when they do, and they get a chance to ask questions, it's not because they're second guessing you. It's not because they're undermining what you're doing or asking them to do. It's because it helps their performance improve when they understand the connection between what they're doing and the outcome. So if you never walked through your organization and asked employees actually if they felt that they knew what success was, I challenge you, because this is one of the most powerful retention conversations leaders can have. I challenge you this quarter as a leader to do an audit on your employees' ability to feel that they have purpose, right? So ask those questions. Why is turnover happening? Where is turnover happening? Which leaders are struggling? Are employees developing or repeating the same tasks over and over again? Are employees feeling seen and heard? And do they understand why their work matters? If you don't know the answers to these questions, take the time to do the audit, because this will help strengthen your employee retention, right? And so if you don't know how to do this kind of an audit, if you've never done a retention audit, reach out, right? Just reach out, ping me, tell me you're looking for a retention audit checklist, because we've created one and we'd be happy to share it with you guys so you have an ability to start that process with the rest of your leadership team. It's important that we remember our employees. It's harder and harder to keep them, right? Our employees are what make our company, not the other way around. So we need to make sure that we're investing in them the right way. And starting with that retention audit is going to give you some key tools to be able to move forward. So before we go on, I want to see if there's any questions anyone has. Please just put them into the chat. I have a couple others that were forwarded to me in advance, but let me know if there's anything in particular that you have a burning question about that we've just talked about. Okay, so first question that I got. Ooh, okay. How do you develop people when you're already feeling short-staffed? I think we all feel short-staffed. I think it goes back to what we were talking about a little while ago, where we have more work to do. We're trying to speed up on the automation and AI at the same time that we're trying to develop our people, that we're trying to get into compliance, right? There's so much going on. And then with the retention issue and hiring issues that people are having, we are short-staffed. I'm not going to lie. It really is something that you guys are facing, and it is a challenge. But you still can develop people even in those moments, right? Because what we're talking about with development isn't pulling them out of the work that they're doing and putting them into some kind of a formal training program or plan or anything. It's about small coaching moments, right? It's about giving them new responsibilities or increasing the skills that they have in the job that they're doing, right? We miss it. We develop people by giving them responsibility, right? Hire great candidates, ones that you're impressed with their skill sets and their expertise, and then don't micromanage them. Allow them to do the work that they're there for and challenge them to continue to grow in the role that they have. So even when you're short staffed, you're just working within the parameters of the jobs that people have and giving them more skills in those particular positions, right? Hopefully that answered the question. Oh, okay. Another question is, what if employees don't seem motivated? My first response here is, that's your problem. And what I mean as a leader is you're responsible for creating work in an environment and a culture where people can feel motivated. If they're not feeling motivated, you're doing things like micromanaging them. You're taking away their purpose or not giving them clarity on it, right? That is your job as a leader, to give them the tools, to give them the reasoning, and to give them the purpose in the job. And then they will feel motivated. People don't come to work because they don't want to do a good job. They don't come to work with the idea that they're going to just sit there at their desk or their workstation or whatever and just wait for, some stream of motivation to come through, right? It's in the day to day. It's in how we treat them. It's in how we make them feel in the work that they do, right? It's that idea of that leader that we talked about before who feels that their employees are unmotivated and leaves their brain in the car when they come to work. Well, that's because you're probably not giving them enough to do inside of what makes them happy in their job, right? Your job as a leader, talk to them, have a conversation with them, find out what they need, what purpose they have in their role, what they feel they're maybe not gaining in the work that they're doing, and help them find that, because that's how they're going to feel motivated. Hopefully that answered the question for you. So I will leave you with this. Retention isn't about perks. It isn't about slogans. It's about leadership. It's about structure and giving people a purpose and a chance to succeed, right? Develop your people, appreciate your people, give your people a purpose, and then hold them accountable and watch them actually do the job and be very capable of succeeding inside your organization and staying in your organization. So our next live is going to be the last in the series on culture, and it's a very direct one. We're going to talk directly to the CEOs and the executive teams and letting them know that they have to own the culture that they have, because culture isn't created by HR, right? It's created by leadership behavior. It's created by leadership standards and the decisions you make every day. So as a leader, you own this one. And we're going to have a direct conversation about that. I look forward to having all of you join us for that as well. So if any of this resonated with you, just follow me on LinkedIn, send me a message with any questions you have or to get that retention audit tool. Share the live with another leader who might be struggling or looking for information on how to continue to grow their team, because that's what I want. I want us to build stronger organizations where leadership is stabilized, retention is there, and culture, because I want employees to feel great about the work they do and feel like they have an opportunity to succeed. These problems are all solvable, but they require leadership to step in. So please make sure that you reach out if we can help support you in any way, and understand that you have the ability to help grow your team, to develop them, to appreciate them, and to give them purpose. Thank you.